Good day, London International Conference on Education 2018. Good day, Cambridge. Thank you for having me. My name is Remishon Mirex from the University of Lagos in Nigeria. The title of my paper is Utilitarianism and the Path Towards Sustainable Development. One of the interests of our research has always been on how poor nations combat the challenges of hunger and poverty. And in doing this, we often touch on growing inequality as a concern of advocates of intragenerational equity. And one of the things that we identified is that poor nations can actually better their lot when they increase local and global competitiveness of their cultural assets or indigenous products. And this idea is hardly a new one. In 1972, Meadows et al. Published their report titled Limits to Growth, in which it was said that the lack of world demand for a country's product can thwart their economic development. And so we ask ourselves this question: how do poor nations, or how can poor nations increase their local and global competitiveness of their cultural assets or indigenous products? And this we answer with an adoption of utilitarian principles. We look up to the lighthouse of utilitarianism. The works of Jeremy Bentham, G.S. Mill, and other proponents of utilitarianism has done well in presenting a theory that maximizes value, ethical choices, as well as utility-based decision-making. What this paper tends to do also is to furnish such argument. And this we do by redirecting our attention to what we believe is the substructure of utilitarian thinking, which we codify as the FAF index model. We also go further to devise a means of augmenting, measuring progress, and diagnosing utility and value, which we label as the 4 quadrants of utility. Despite all the exploits of utilitarianism, it still has not shielded it from coming under serious attack by critics. In fact, Amartya Sen will even go as far as demonizing utilitarianism with his term utilitarian monster. And this we see really as a contradiction, to have utility and monster side by side. But again, we understand that part of the criticism that has bedeviled utilitarianism has come from a lopsided view or perspective of the concept itself. And we believe that an understanding or redirecting our focus to the substructure of utilitarianism can help better set the record straight. For lack of better word, we codify the substructure as the FAF index. This has been what we have duly observed as the basic consistent nature of every product or many products that have moved from their obscure or local beginnings to become global or being acceptable globally. And the first being freedom is a sense of explaining conversions, refinement, scaling and scope that we see as very evident in almost always every cultural asset that has gained global acceptance, whether it is from coffee Ethiopia beans becoming coffee drinks, or wheat or corn becoming flour, or even nuts becoming oil and what have you. The pattern, the process is usually very much similar in nature. And this we see and advocate for cultural assets themselves to go through processes of refinement, freedom. The second index, which is aesthetics, is hardly a new one too. Human beings have a tendency to value better things that excite their eyes, their mind, or their life. And this we see in aspect of packaging, design, truth, and beauty. What this suggests really is that most times advocates of cultural assets have a way of explaining or enumerating the truths, the components, the properties in the product that makes it much more valuable and acceptable in the long run. As for the third one, which is fraternity, if we look at what McClelland's theory of learning needs talks about, which is actually three attributes. The first is the need for achievement, the second the need for affiliation, and the third the need for power. The second artificial need, or the second learned needs, is very similar to our own idea of fraternity. We understand or we observe that most products that have gained global relevance have this sense of new and expanded identity. If we look at coffee, for instance, Calestos Juma